Welcome back to 3B Farm. We're going to update the farm and let you know what's been going on this year, so stay tuned. Welcome back to 3B Farm. It's been a long time since I've did any kind of an update or anything here on the farm. It's been a very busy year, so I'm not even sure where to start, and I'm sure I'm going to miss things because so much has happened. But let's just get started into this, and we'll see how it ends up. I might have to do a second update for the things that I miss, I guess. 2025 has been a very radical year. I've got so much done this year, it's unbelievable. I did get that grant like I stated in one of my earlier videos, so I'm still in the middle of building and doing the upgrades that included. Here recently I got a few other surprises that I'll bring up later in the video, which were a blessing from God. But anyway, the farm is just incredible. I've got a long way, another 2 or 3 years to grow and build, but it's amazing where this is going. When I left off with videos earlier in the year, I was still moving stuff out of the basement for the farmers markets as far as, vegetable starts and that type of thing, which I do sell a lot of early in the year. And, I had to move all these into my high tunnel underneath plastic and cloth to keep them warm at night. And the tomatoes and stuff, I had to even have a heater in there some nights because it was just still a little too cool for them. But that allowed them to get all nice and hardened off so I could start into the farmer's market in the spring. And this is one of my early markets here. The only thing I have out here at this point are some cabbages and broccoli, cauliflower, that type of thing, because it was still too cold at this point for tomatoes and peppers and everything else. But it was a nice start for the year with all the landscape plants. There was plenty there to sell. And then once it warmed up enough, I expanded and brought all the tomatoes, peppers, squash, everything else in the warm season bracket along with still some cold season stuff. And, made the market a nice place for people to come in the county and buy local grown seedlings and stuff. I also grew some flowers along with all the perennials and shrubs and everything else I had. So it was, a good start to the year as far as the farmers markets go. Now in the nursery, I still had a lot of PVC pipes that broke through the winter. I just didn't have enough of these union joints in them to drain them really well before the winter, so I had to come back and do a lot of repairs and fix a lot of PVC. Hopefully with the union joints and the draining this winter, we'll have a lot less destruction. The other thing I was able to accomplish this year was I needed a way to inject fertilizer into the water system. And I didn't have anything until I put this together. But basically I wanted something that was movable that I could just connect into the hoses. So I brought this injector out here and mounted it on a little hand cart and a 5-gallon bucket to put everything in. Put a little filter in here to keep everything clean going into the system, and just a way at the bottom to connect hoses in and out, so I had an injection system. Another area I had problems with in the wintertime is I didn't really have a way yet to tie up all the taller trees and shrubs. So along this outside of this fence line here, I'm going to move a lot of shrubs out here. So I put down some plastic and just started doing my yearly maintenance on all these shrubs, cutting them back and fertilizing them and getting the soil compacted in them and moving them to the outside of this fence to clear the whole area just inside the fence. And once I get all these plants moved out here, it really cleaned up the inside of that fence. So I came through and added some more shorter, just cheap U-posts in here that I could tie stuff to, and started dragging all my taller shrubs and trees along this edge so I could rope and tie them to those stakes. One thing I had to make for the market this year was all these trays for tables for my bedding plants. I just didn't really have a good way to move stuff back and forth. I didn't do a lot of production this year, but I did come up with all these seedlings of hellebores from a friend that had a bunch seeded in her yard. So I went and collected a bunch of those and got those moved into the small containers. I did do some production. These are cryptomerias here, and I had a lot of trees that had to grow up in size into larger containers. So there's some Japanese maples and just some odd trees, a bunch of fruit trees here that went into 15-gallon containers, and just a lot of miscellaneous stuff that had to be upgraded in size, basically. I had a bunch of persimmons and pawpaw trees that went into 1 gallons. And then I had to come into the tunnels. These are, this is just all hadn't been worked with yet, but with the azaleas in bloom, which tells you I'm way behind working in here for the spring. But I had to come through and collect all the leaves out of here, prune everything back, fertilize them, and you can see I'm still in the process here of going through that, but that's what you have to do with all these tunnels and plants in the spring. And this grass, I waited too long this year to cut it back, and it was starting to bury all my 3-gallon plants in here, so I cut it back, and this next spring I'm just going to move all these to a different area and give them room to grow and turn this probably into garden space here. I have several hundred peonies, and I don't have any of them marked as to what they are, so I came up with this little label system here to where I could have single pinks, double burgundies, and I can put these into the pots of peonies so that I know what they are going into next year. This whole area here just, I went in and weeded all this to the ground, and I'm just going to put ground cloth on this and expand the area that I'm going to put containers. And I have all these wood chips. This is all that's left out of 21 truckloads that I had brought in here a couple years ago. But this is really low in here, so I brought in a bunch of those wood chips and leveled it out. And then I'm just going to come back with that fabric and roll it out here and sod staple it to the ground so I have more room to put container plants in this area here. And once that's done, it's, a good area and a lot of size here so I can expand stuff into and more growing room. And my tunnels every year, I put plastic on these through the winter time, but when it starts getting really hot, it just cooks in there. So I take all the plastic off and get shade cloth on all those. And this fenced in area here that I started last year, I'm continuing on with putting posts and wire on that this year. And this is just one of 2 areas that are just going to be full of fruit trees. And it's just nice to get all these posts and everything in the ground. I ended up hand digging these because I couldn't get an auger that suited my needs. And then on the second area, I went ahead and measured and laid out all the posts for the second area as well. And then, this is going to give me 2 areas that I can do a food forest. I want to plant a bunch of fruit trees, but I also want to underplant them with a lot of things and create these little relationships in plants that will, some plants fix nitrogen, so that helps fertilize other plants. It's just a good way to make the soil a whole lot better than it was. The one side, I had to come back and jackhammer down through some sandstone for some posts in the one end. And once the wire starts going up, I also came back. I've got 2 sets of gates that go in both areas. I started putting those together. Then finally I moved pallets out here to start moving steel for my steel structure that's going up this year. To put it in the ground, I had when I tore this down years ago, I had to cut all the pipes off at the ground. So I need ground posts, and I have these 8 to 9 foot 4-inch pipe here, and I had to come back and cut all those in half and then drill all those so that I could get, the top pieces slid down inside of them and bolted to them at the right height so that I could get my walls all put together to hold up these gutters that you see laying on the ground here. The gutters have to be painted, that just a whole lot of work yet to do. Here you can see the footers I'm starting to put together in between the posts so that I can build the end walls and stick build them out of wood. You can see all the uprights down in those ground pins at this point in time and bolted into place and ready to start setting the gutter system overhead. At the end of the gutters, I needed a way to block the water flow from one end of the gutters, so I had to make these aluminum ends that will bolt into these ends of the gutters and stop the water from flowing out this one end of the gutters. I have all these arches on the ground which will go over top each of those bays. There are 4 20-foot wide bays that make this up. So the overall structure is 60 by 80 feet. While I have these gutters on the ground and painting them, I also use them to hold down these footer systems. And I'm just making these out of 2x4s on pier footers to bolt the bottoms of the end walls into. One blessing I did get this year is I got my hands on a whole bunch of freezer panels to make a walk-in cooler. And you know, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and with all this fruit going to be coming on and within the next 2 years, I need a way to keep this cool. So getting all these panels was a real blessing and definitely something I needed. Now, I don't have electric out here yet, so I've started getting everything together for my solar system to be able to power the cooler and everything out here in the nursery. Well, that was kind of short and sweet, but it got some of the basic stuff out of the way that I did this year. You know, there was just so much that happened this year. I don't even remember some of it. But, you know, in a nursery business, just tons of things take so much time. When you have several thousand plants in containers, each of them need worked on a couple times a year. I don't have good water here on the site, so I'm always scrambling for water and water a minimal amount just to keep everything looking halfway decent. And when you do that, the soil in the containers gets dry, and what happens is that it shrinks in from the outside and leaves an air gap between the container and the soil. And you know, unless you soak those things in standing water or something, it's hard to get those to come back out and get really hydrated. So what I do once a year at least is go through every single container and compact all the soil and dress the top with a little more fresh soil product. And you know, that's when you got several thousand plants, that takes a lot of time. In the spring, you got to go through and you know, shear or cut back all those plants. You got to top dress them with fertilizer once a year, and then a couple times a year, if not 3 times a year, you got to go through and weed everything. And that takes tons of time. I didn't get all that done this year. I did go through everything, but not as many times as I should have to keep up with it. The new additions to the farm this year just took so much of my time, and I did end up with, you know, a fair amount of work off the farm, which pays my bills till I get the farm built. So, you know, I had to get off the farm and do all that to a large extent. So, you know, what you saw here, you know, it's like I showed a little bit of the irrigation, but there was a lot of irrigation work that took part. You know, building all the fence posts. I got an auger, but I couldn't find anybody to help me use the auger. I got an auger for the tractor, but because the hydraulics system is connected where it is on the back, I can't really use it on the tractor that I have. So I ended up hand digging every fence post hole. You know, and there was one row of them which was next to where an old road used to go down to a gas well, and there's all this huge gravel in there and you know, and sandstone, and I ended up using the jackhammer to go down with 8 posts or so out of the 80, 90, however many it was I put in the ground. You know, so nothing ever goes easy for me. I'm glad I can still do all that at my age. You know, a lot of people didn't make it to my age, so I guess I'm happy to be able to do that, and God has blessed me with the ability to do that. You know, the farm is coming along really well. The structure I hope to be finished with in the next couple of months. And the fencing is just about done for all the fruit trees. I'm going to order a bunch of fruit trees to sell and to put in the ground this spring, and I have a bunch to put in the ground already, as well as blueberries, honeyberries, raspberries, blackberries, strawberries. You know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, all that's coming up, and that needs to be put in the ground here pretty soon. Right now we've got a ton of snow, and it's single digits to in the teens for highs during the days for the next week and a half or so. So, you know, I'm stuck inside. I do go outside, and I've got to make some steel parts and stuff for the greenhouse that I'm putting back up. So I go out and cut steel a little each day, or drill holes in some fabrications that I'm doing for the greenhouse, or something like that, where I can do it at least out of the snow, even though it's cold, till my batteries freeze up on my tools and I have to go inside and thaw them out and recharge them. And you know, so a couple times a day I'm going out and doing some of that stuff. Getting seed stuff ready. I got my shelves down into the basement, and I'm setting everything up to get seed started. The cold season stuff needs to be started pretty soon. For those of you that don't know, I do attend farmer markets in the springtime and sell bedding plants for gardens. Nobody likes buying Bonnie's plants, and some of the people that are out there, you know, my plants are good quality plants, and you know, they're grown locally, which people like to deal with local people when they can and support local businesses. I do the same thing. So, you know, getting all that ready to seed start, which will be started in the next week or two. The early stuff, the cabbage, you know, broccoli and cauliflower. I don't know if I'm going to do so much of that this year. It never really sells at the farmer's market. Here, you really have to baby those plants early in the year and keep them under cover to keep the moths off of them. Or you end up with tons of bugs eating your plants. I am going to do the cabbage, and I'll probably grow some under cover here, but it's mainly for the market, because people will grow cabbage here more than anything else as far as the brassicas go. So anyway, I hope this was at least a little bit of a catch-up for what's going on the farm. I'm hoping now that I've got some new software for editing my videos. My last software crashed. I'll do a rant on the software company that I was using, which was NCH. I just don't like them. They have jerked me around for years, and anyway, so I've got a new software, and I'm learning it. It's a lot more involved, excuse me, and a lot more of a professional software, but it seems to be a really good software. You know, I'm not trying to do professional Hollywood quality movies on here. I'm just trying to get people aware of the fact that there is a farm in the county that's going to be producing more and more fruit and vegetables and bedding plants and nursery stock and stuff like that, and it's going to expand in the next few years quite a bit. So this is all just to keep people aware of what's going on the farm and what's available in the market. We'll get more into the availability as the season gets closer this spring. So for now, thank you for coming back and joining me in this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. I like for my analytics to get up to where a few more people do catch this. If you're watching me on Facebook, you know, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I've got a lot of local followers, and hopefully, you know, through the course of the next couple of years, you can keep tabs on the farm, and hopefully I'll be growing some things that you can use in your household. So thanks again, and take care. God bless.